morning, everybody. Welcome to the first brokerage event for the Cluster Health in Horizon Europe. My name is Caterina Buonocore. I'm the Health National Contact Point for Italy. And today I will be supported by another colleague, also National Contact Point, Miss Patricia Calado, who will be moderating the session. This brokerage event has been organized thanks to the funding of a European project called Bridge to Horizon Europe, and it has been heavily supported by the National Contact Point for Horizon Europe and the Enterprise Europe Network. So it's really a first joint effort to accelerate and support partnership creation for the first calls for 2020. Probably all of you have been involved in the Info Day, which was held on the 2nd of July, Friday, where the calls were presented by European Commission. And today we will just continue a bit what has been started. We won't talk again of the calls, but we want to underline today, thanks to the presence of a speaker from European Commission, what are the new features and what are the elements where we have to concentrate and focus when we want to create a successful research and innovation proposal in Horizon Europe. So I'm going to show you in this slide the agenda of this first session. We will be together about 2 hours, so until 12:30. As I said, we have Gian Pietro van der Goor, Policy Assistant to the Director of People Directorate. He will be really a bit summing up what has been happening in Horizon 2020, giving us also some statistics about what happened in the proposals which were funded, and highlighting the elements which are really new and which will help you to really create successful proposals. Then I will again take the word as National Contact Point and will give you some hints about partner search, how to create a consortium, eligibility criteria, which is also a very important point for partnership creation. Then we will have a very interesting roundtable. We have 4 coordinators of Horizon 2020 project in the health sector. We have chosen them, of course, by type of organization. You see a company, an hospital, a university, and a patient association. So we would be really glad if they want to share with us their experience and the secrets of their success in the previous framework program. As I said, then we will have a moderating colleague, Patricia Calado, NCP Cluster 1 from IC Portugal, but I will tell something more about her later. So now, I mentioned it on the slide. It's very important. This is a prelude only to the very important B2B we will have this afternoon at 1:30 until 5:30. So I will give some more instructions about the B2B in the very end of this session after the roundtable. But now I really need to tell you that for all of you who have still not accepted or not refused the pending meetings, please do so. It's very important because from yesterday evening, we still have a few, I would say, a few hundreds of non-validated meetings. So please make these meetings happen, or at least just refuse these meetings so that we know how it went. So you have a few hours more to do this. So please, this is very important for us. This was my introduction. We really have to understand, all of us together, how do we want to make an impact in this new framework program, Horizon Europe. And with this question, I would like to give the floor to the European Commission colleague Gianpietro van de Goor, who's now connected from Switzerland, if I can say so, and he will be introducing us this very new and important feature to build a successful partnership. So, Gianpietro, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, Katerina. Good morning, everybody. And yes, indeed, I'm in Switzerland. I have a little bit of complicated origin, so Switzerland is part of my origins, apart from the Dutch and Italian side that you can well see in my name. And regarding impact, yes, indeed, that's the big thing that I will now go a little bit more into detail. Some of you might have already seen some of the slides that I'm going to present. But I don't know, Katerina, shall we go ahead?
Shall we start? Yes. Okay. Then I leave you, and I will be back. The floor is yours, Gianpietro.
All right,
Thank
thanks a
you.
lot. Okay, can I have maybe the first slide? Okay, I see that no slide is shown. Okay, it comes now. Great, next please. Well, as a first point, I would like to reiterate some, let's say, findings or elements that are quite essential. And it's really, let's put it like this, the main elements that you should be aware and that you will learn probably more in detail today and get aware of. But maybe you have already heard about these things. It's basically what I'm presenting in this slide is essential, especially relevant for today's brokerage event, which is about sharing ideas, finding partners, establishing a robust consortium and project. And I think the most important thing if we talk about cluster health is, of course, that we are talking mainly about collaborative research. So it's about working together, working with other researchers from across Europe. And that brings me to the second point on the slide, which is a summary of the experience, or let's say the typical features that research projects had in Horizon 2020, so the previous research and innovation program. And as you can see, maybe not that good. So you see here a graph, so which basically shows the composition of teams, and it ranges in general between 7 to 18 participants. So you see quite large groups of people, of partners that are coming together. In average, we saw 13 participants. So it's quite something and requires quite good coordination and management experience for those who are then coordinating the projects. You will also see that the minimum size is 3, and this is of course because of the requirement that is set in our rules, that we need at least 1 participant from the EU plus 2 from a EU member states or an associated countries. And apart from that, participation is open to the world. So basically, any legal entity, any partner, any participant from elsewhere in the world can participate. But of course, the union is not funding everybody, and I think it's important for you to bear in mind that some partners might need to look for funding elsewhere. Partners from more developed countries, for instance, with the exception of the USA, because we have there a specific agreement with the NIH of mutually opening our programs. So where the NIH is also funding European researchers. Maybe I move to the next slide, which basically is again somehow illustrating the importance for us now to focus on impact. I mean, this was already a big thing, or the main aim in the past years, so this is not really new. What is actually new is that we want to be more clearer on what impact we want to actually achieve. And we want also to be clearer on what we are expecting from research and innovation. So actually the impacts we have identified are the impacts where we see the highest potential for research innovation conducted at a European level to make a difference, and to address actually these political goals that are depicted on this slide. All are somehow connected to sustainability, climate change, of course, but also competitiveness and growth is a question of, let's say, economic sustainability. but also societal sustainability is an important element. So it's not all about ecological sustainability that we want to aim for, but especially also the economic and societal dimension. Which I mean, where research innovation can make a huge difference, can enable actually that we go for that. It's a long process to achieve these impacts, and maybe I will explain later on how we have then tried to develop, let's say, a line of thoughts on how you in your proposal can make a proposition, a value proposition, in what way your research innovation can make a change that on the long term will create these impacts at the societal and economic level. Maybe to the next slide, please. Now, regarding Horizon Europe, it's a huge program, of course, and is divided in three main pillars. Pillar one, focusing on excellent science with the ERC, Marie Curie Slodowska Curie Action Program, research infrastructures. We have the pillar two, and that's where I will be talking today about. Pillar two is with the cluster health, where we have 1.2 billion euro for the next 7 years to invest into research collaborations mainly. And we have the pillar three, which is more about innovation funding of individual innovators, which is a new pillar that was not yet there on the Horizon 2020. There was a pilot action, of course, but it's quite new. And we have a cross-cutting element that is about improving or strengthening the European research area and widening participation of maybe less successful countries on the Horizon 2020. What else do I need to say on this? I think it's important here to note also that, of course, health is not only funded in the health cluster, but actually you find elements on different kinds of health research funded under the different pillars. In addition to Horizon Europe, we have, of course, also the Euratom program, which is funding health research, especially in the radiological nuclear medicine area. So this is maybe important in general for you to keep in mind if you are looking for opportunities. There is also the European Research Council supporting individual researchers, individual teams, and we have the European Innovation Council as a new element in our funding, which is supporting individual innovators. So basically funding for near-to-market research or for market for establishing the products in the markets. Okay, let's move to the next slide. Now, the difference to Horizon 2020 is also that some new, let's say, buzzwords, sorry to call it like this, but some, let's say, important language came in. I mean, impact oriented, that's already there for quite some time. Purpose driven is very clear for a programmatic approach. And the pillar two, which is about global challenges and industrial competitiveness, is about a programmatic approach. So basically, it's not bottom up, it's top down. We are identifying where the needs and opportunities are, where we would like to see that the researchers develop solutions. And in this way, it's also important that you as applicants try to address the expectations that we have, that the society has, that the economy has. So there is a clear logic needed, and there's the notion of intervention logic, and which I will introduce later on what we actually mean with that. Next slide, please. Now, this looks now a little bit complicated. Basically, what I just wanted to show there, that we have tried now to basically translate from what is the legal base for us, the legislation which defines the budget, which defines the structure that I've just shown, which identifies the thematic areas and generally the architecture of our new Horizon Europe program and the rules for participation, that we have translated that into a strategic plan. And the strategic plan is basically a 4 years strategic document which gives the direction where we are expecting that research and innovation could and should make a difference on the short and especially long term when we talk about impacts. So what we have identified there also for the cluster health are expected impacts. And these are now used for defining and giving direction to the work program. So work program 21-22, which has been published on the 16th of June, is basically based on the strategic plan. The destinations are those are identical to the expected impacts that the strategic plan is giving. And we have then further translated destinations into topics. And if you look now into topics, you will see that there is the element of expected outcomes described. So we have not only on the long term the expected impacts, but on a shorter term expected outcomes. And I will explain in more detail later on what we mean with that. Maybe we move to the next slide. Here's a summary of the, let's say, the short summary of the expected impact. This is basically just, let's say, a catchy summary of the expected impacts. We have also provided, for ease of reference, a short title. So the first is Staying Healthy in a Rapidly Changing Society, just as a vision on where we want to move to and to give direction for what we want to achieve. But if you look into the strategic plan and then in the work program, you will see that we have further specified what actually we think that this should entail, what are the impacts that in the end society should see from the research and innovation that we are going to support, be it healthier lifestyle, healthier behaviors, be it being more independent or basically able to manage your health yourself, or even when you have certain health conditions to manage those. So this is a little bit in this first destination. I will not go through all. You will see that in the work program specified as well. Next slide, please. Yeah, I already mentioned that we have a certain change in the way we present now what we want to see. Strategic plan to give directions, expected impacts, the work program with the 6 destinations translated in calls. And what it means for the project proposal, I already mentioned that it is important that you make a clear case in relation to what we are expecting from the research that we are funding. So let's put it like this, the impact is the long-term view, the outcome, the result of what the target groups are doing, the target users of your research results or of your research innovations are doing with the results. So we have applied something which is called log frame, and maybe we move. Let's move to the next slide. We have applied a logical structure which is established, which is nothing new. That's called log frame, logical framework matrix. So you start with the input that are your expertise, the people working in your groups, the consortia at large, the funding that we provide to you, which then creates the output that then in the end should lead to the outcome and impact that we have identified in the work program and strategic plan. But the work program basically summarizes everything. So you don't need necessarily to look at the strategic plan, but the work program provides the reference to the expected impacts that are relevant for this work program. So it's maybe important that in the strategic plan, we have a 4 years horizon. So we have also expected impacts that are not included in the current work program. So you can focus on what is written in the work program. This gives the direction, and it is up to you to decide what research output and what research approach can lead to this outcome. So the outcome is the immediate effect that you should design your project for. So which also means, and I've identified a little bit described here, the resources, the results of R&D, R&I, and the immediate use of R&I and uptake of R&I results is what we see as outcome. This means also that instead of thinking only about a research project, you need also to think about of its use, about the use of the results of the innovation, and means immediately also that in one or the other way, you need to involve the target users, either in the design stage, during the project execution, or at the end of the project in the design of your project, in the execution of your project. So this exchange needs to be prepared, and you need to prepare research and innovation that in the end can be used by them in order to create the outcome. So by using the research results, and then on the long term, the impact that we would like to see. And maybe we move to the next slide to give a little bit more illustration to that. And I have given a few examples, and of course this is all simplified, and of course everything that is strategic plan and work program is of course a simplification of the reality. So, but it's up to you now to give them to this backbone that we have provided, providing the flash, the describing what you want to achieve with your research and innovation, what you want to generate as results, as innovation, what questions you want to follow. And of course, the output can be knowledge, understanding, can be technologies. But the key point is then that you need to create outcome with that. So you need to prepare already the research in a way that in the end, for instance, healthcare providers, so hospitals, can use the data that you are creating, the technologies that you are creating, and integrating that in their settings. And with that, I think it's not, we can expect that citizens can live longer, are healthier, are better treated, and we can also expect that the healthcare systems are becoming more sustainable, financially sustainable, for instance, a big thing that in our times, the fiscal or financial sustainability of of health systems. So this is just an illustration. I've provided a few other examples, but maybe we go simply to the next slide. Now, I already mentioned that our funding is grant-based for collaborative research. And we have, of course, under the health cluster also some other types of funding, but these are less relevant for researchers. That's, for instance, for partnerships. So where we actually want to bring funders and investors together with a small incentives from our side to do that in order to create a bigger funding scheme. This is the partnerships, and you can expect from these partnerships that also certain calls will be launched. Maybe you have heard in the past about the EDCDP. That was one of the partnerships, an institutional, of course, so it's a little bit different than what is mentioned in the cluster health work program, but it is part of it. But we have also partnerships like on the rare diseases, and there are funding opportunities created. Another one that you certainly have heard and which receives quite some attention also because of creating impact are the missions. The missions are still in a preparatory phase, and for the work program that has been issued, there are some preparatory elements, preparatory actions included. But we are now in the process of preparing the implementation. So there was an implementation plan prepared by the Commission, which now was internally discussed, and we got from the politicians, from the commissioners, the agreement to go ahead and prepare for a work program and also a formal endorsement, which will then be through a commission decision in autumn this year, and hopefully then by the end of this year we can then launch this mission work program. So this is still in the making, it's still in the preparation. A formal decision has not been taken, but it looks very much likely that in September we will have the get-go for and the publication of the work programs. Another element, maybe just to mention, are the synergies that we are looking for with other EU programs. For now, we have worked a lot on harmonizing rules, on harmonizing funding approaches, on allowing also, for instance, shifting of investments. So investments from the regional funds that can be used for research, for instance, for research projects. So this is still in the making from a strategic point of view, but we will certainly try that these other EU programs can be useful exactly for the uptake and implementation of research results and innovation. Next slide, please. Now, how does the timing look for this call? So the call was launched on the 23rd of June. and it will close on the 21st of September. Of course, it's not perfect, ideal to have it over the summer break, so this will require, of course, for you that you work more than probably expected, but we had difficulties in getting the decisions in time. So a lot of negotiations, of course, with member states, with parliament, and then also internally finding an agreement on the different topics. The evaluation process and then the grant preparation process will then continue from October to about February. February, April, we will start with the grant preparation, and signature is expected with the first grants in April, and probably concluded in the course of May. So that's a little bit in a nutshell from the timing. Next slide. If you want to get in more information, well, first of all, there are the national contact points, of course. There is the participant portal. This is basically the central place where you can find all information, where you can also find the contact details for the NCPs. There is also a partner search facility that you can use. But I think the brokerage event is much more, let's say, much more something that you can immediately find the right partners and identify good ideas where you could try to get into the proposals. I think that's all what I would like to say for now. Maybe to the next slide, which I think is the last one. Yes, that's all. I think that's just the final statement from our commissioner, which is about green, digital, and resilient recovery and transformation of our society. So this is the big thing that we are over the next 5 to 10 years aiming for. Transformation of our society, where research and innovation is an enabler and a key factor to make it possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Gian Pietro. I think you really gave a lot of reflection points on how do we want to make an impact as researchers and innovators in Europe and outside Europe for the next 7 years. I think that many of the concepts you presented, the log frame concept with this line of input, output, outcome, impact. It must be really the mantra for who's writing or who's conceiving a research and innovation proposal in Horizon Europe. And also us as national contact point, we want to study this log frame more and really get used to work on proposal preparation in that way, because for sure this will help any research group to really identify the right target group, the final users. I think that is very important. So really, thank you for this presentation. I think it's really what we were expecting and what we needed today in this prelude to the networking session. What else? I don't know if you want to just before leaving us, give us a final message to the people who are now connected and to that will have today the B2B. Just final advice, if you wish.
Final advice. Well, I think that sometimes these things look quite theoretical and maybe far away from practice. And I mean, as I pointed out, it is a simplification, and we are talking about a research program. A program means always, a programmatic approach means always that there are expectations which we are defining. So like the impact, we want to achieve impact. We are moving more and more into an investor type of thinking, of course. That's the time where this is everywhere happening, that we have to express more clearly what we are expecting, and also be able to express to the citizens what we are actually doing with our funding. And so I think in the end, what we tried with Horizon Europe is to give a little bit more, let's say, be clearer in the steps. So I think the outcome is really can be helpful for the researchers just to understand the connection to the impact. I mean, before, I think the impact appeared always a little bit too far and too high in what researchers normally think in time frame. So I think it's important to take a calm look to it, try to understand the simple basic reason for that, and not to get lost too much in this slang, in this jargon that we are using. So that, I think, is important for the researchers.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much also for this final practical message. I think that's the way we all have to work to help researchers and innovators to really also get out of the jargon and really get to the point, to the bulk of science and innovation. So really, thank you. And we know that you will be with us in these coming months. The National Contact Point will probably contact you many and many times. So really, thank you for joining us today on behalf of European Commission. This was very important for us to have you here. So have a nice day, and then we continue with this session where actually I go back on stage, and I just allow me to tell you a bit more about us National Contact Point, and as I promised, a few hints on how to approach the partnership creation in Horizon Europe. So now I will use again some slides, and yes, thank you. So National Contact Points, it's important that all of you connected are in touch with your national contact point, indeed, in your own language, with your own environment and the specific knowledge coming from the country. Today I'm also presenting this new Horizon Europe portal, which is at the moment the only portal for NCP hosting all the information regarding eventually your NCP, so how to contact your NCP in the country. And yes, can you click? There are animation in the slide. Thank you. What do we do? What do we want to do together? First of all, the National Contact Point will work together. So we will really work as a transnational network. So when you contact an NCP in France, and you might need some partners, for example, in another country, we can be of help. In these years, we will definitely develop some tools, and we will try to also create some new services or refine old services, maybe with a better quality. We will organize transnational events like this one. This is the first one, and we have been already asked if we will organize a new one for 2022 calls. The answer is maybe at the moment, but we think we can organize a new one in this autumn. And then we will also dedicate some time to improve our skills and the procedures for the National Contact Point to be as helpful and as useful as possible with you. Next slide, please. So this is the portal which I invite you to visit. In the two, let's say, doors, we call them doors. You see the blue one called Stage and the other one called Store. You will find in the blue one the events that are coming up on the European Commission side, organized by National Contact Point, or other relevant research and innovation-oriented conferences. So you go there and you will find a very updated page in the next weeks. And then the door dedicated to the tools, that's also an important one. It's important for us, National Contact Point, because there we already uploaded a few guidelines on how to better participate to the new program. You will find a glossary, a business glossary, to help those of you who are doing project more oriented towards the market. And much more. It will be updated, of course, as soon as we have new product. So this is an open platform, and it's important for you in the start of the program to know what are our information hubs. Next slide, please. Yes, there is some animation, please. So can you? Yes. So in details, you see the 4 doors. again, and I want to underline here the first one, academy, where now we are organizing trainings dedicated especially to NCPs. But as an anticipation, I can tell that in the future we will do more events for also for the public, and so follow also the orange door dedicated to trainings activities. Next slide, please. In the portal, you find also a searchable page where you can actually select if you are a participant or an NCP. There is some animation, please, can you, thanks. The 4 entry doors, and then also the search button where you can actually select if you're an NCP or a participant, in which theme you are interested, meaning clearly health sector, digital sector, and so on. And also what NCP network you are looking for. This is more for NCP. So you see showed in the slide the past trainings we already did. We did very interesting training on dissemination and communication in Horizon Europe. Then we gave some information. This was made by European Commission on the funding and tender portal for beginners. So how to use the new portal. And then you see some thematic events, one dedicated to the integration of social sciences and humanities in Horizon Europe. And the last one was dedicated totally to open science, science communication, and citizen science, which, as you saw from Mr. Gian Pietro Van der Goor presentation, are really transversal but very important elements to underline in a research proposal. Next slide, please. So now I want to go a bit more into the partnership creation. In 1 hour, you will be busy meeting new colleagues from other countries, other expertises. What we want to tell as NCP is that in creating a consortium, you would always need to concentrate on these 5 elements. First of all, the competence that each other has in the consortium. The balance, so you always have to create the consortium which is generally fitting the topic, of course, but with a component which is public, private, so including also companies, as we will show today in the roundtable, hospitals, patient association. So also a geographical balance in some cases might be very relevant in the composition of a good consortium. Complementarity is very also essential, because the topics you have seen are very broad and they require in general very different disciplines. So it's very important to involve different disciplines, and that the partnership is really complementary and not overlapping. Well, these last 2 points, of course, excellence, you should look always for the best partners in that field, but also it's very important to look for committed partners, because this is very crucial. Also, when you engage in a proposal preparation, it's better to check in the beginning and to understand how committed that organization can be. It can happen that people are agreeing in a first moment, then maybe abandoning the boat in the second moment. So really check that the partners you are connecting with are credible. And so create your consortium in line with the project objective and expected impact. It's really the process to be chosen. You look at the request that European Commission is making to the group, and you have to really build the proposal on the research topic and not the other way around. That's very important. Next slide, please. So just a recap, very quick, about basic funding rates. Horizon Europe has not changed the funding rates rules. So if you will engage into a research and innovation project, the funding rate is 100%, as it was in the past, 17% for innovation and close to market activities. You notice that in our work program, the most of the instrument are research and innovation action. Just one innovation action is present at the moment. And we have also some other instrument like the CSA, coordination support action mainly. PCP and PPI are two instruments which are also getting really important in the health field. But I won't talk about this and the funding rates at the moment. It's important also to remember the 25% indirect cost, which are basically given on a flat rate basis. The evaluation criteria, always three: excellence, impact, and implementation, with a score you will get from 0 to 5. So maximum score you can get is the 15. Next slide, please. This is also important for matchmaking of this afternoon. You have to remember that, of course, member states are eligible for participating and for funding, but it's really important for you to remember that at the moment there is a list of countries which are in process of associating to Horizon Europe. There are low and middle income countries which are still funded by the European Commission. But please use these links, because there you will find also the very last update on which country have completed the association process. At the moment, there are 18 countries which are under the process of associations. Many of you have asked about UK participation, which at the moment is possible in the cluster health and everywhere in the pillars of Horizon Europe, beside one exception that you find also at this link. And about Switzerland, we also wanted to give you this very important page of update, because we know that Swiss partners are, of course, very present and with a great expertise in the health field. Next slide, please. So really to wrap up, in doing your bilateral meetings, really always look at the 3 dimensions mentioned here in this slide. Someone will do the basic research in the consortium, but some other partners should really take care of the impact of the R&D outcomes. So these partners will be those ones doing developing of new technologies, the testing part, the validations, the technology part. And last but not least, there is the part which is really important, and is the dissemination and exploitation of the knowledge and the solutions which are generated. In that case, you always must look for the very competent partner which are really professional in doing or in taking care of the dissemination, the communication, and also the exploitation of the generated solutions. So really triple dimension, be aware that these elements are present in the cluster 1 health research project. Next one, please. So what roles you are looking for? Remember that on the official roles in Horizon Europe are mentioned in this slide. You can be a coordinator, you can be a beneficiary, but there are also some other dimensions of partnership, like the affiliated entities or being a third party or associated partners in the consortium. So different level of responsibilities, different level of involvements, also at legal and financial aspect. I can imagine you might have in the future many questions on which role each partner has to take in the consortium. And for this, of course, the national contact point also on the legal and financial will be really helpful to discuss what's the best role for each partners in the consortium. On the right side, you see the practical roles, really to give you a list of expertises you can foresee in a European or international consortium, from the technology developer to the end user, to the training specialist, the project manager, clinical partners, very much in our field, dissemination experts. So you again reinforcing the presence of many different dimensions in the Horizon Europe partnerships. Next slide, please. This is just a tip when you will be doing your partnership creation. The advice is also to use a skilled matrix, very important, because this will help you to focus on which are the fields for research and innovation that you are covering with that group of people. And you can also see how many of the partners have more than one expertise. This is really helping you to understand that the consortium is really synergic, complementary, and balanced, as I was advising in the beginning. Next slide, please. Next one, please. So first, before giving the floor to the roundtable, I wanted to mention again that the Funding and Tender Portal as a partner search tool. As you know, also from previous program, you have the opportunity under each topic to register your profile and describe your expertise. So that's really to be considered the research, the partner search tool that European Commission is making available. So really important to start using this. And in the next slide, you see another portal, which it's not a partner search tool by itself, but it's very important, and we advise you to consult it because there you find statistics of participation. You can look for project in a certain field, and we believe that that's a very important portal to orientate you in the search of new partners. So it is really a valid tool that we want to communicate today, not only for doing statistic of participation, but really to search for the people you want to work with. I think I have a last slide. No, also this was my final, and I really hope that these messages were useful to really a bit go into the meetings with new colleagues with this idea of partnership with complementarity, balance, commitment, excellence, and so on. And now it's really the time for me to give the floor to the colleague Patricia Calado, who's the moderator of our roundtable, and I'm sure that they will offer us really very nice messages or secrets about what made them successful in the previous program. Patricia, good morning. How are you?
Hello, Catarina. Nice to see you again. I'm fine. It was really nice to listen to Gianpietro and now to you. I think that our participants have now, I would say, a view of all the ingredients that they need to cook this recipe. And now with the roundtable, we will just try to uncover some of the, as you said, secrets of success that our coordinators can advise on. And I think I speak for myself, and I think for all NCPs, we are really excited to get into this first round of calls in this big journey that we have ahead for the 7-year program Horizon Europe. So it's novelty for everybody, also for us.
Thank you, Patricia. I wanted to introduce you in a better way, also pronouncing well the name of the agency you work for, but
Yes.
I stopped at Agencia, and then I
Yeah,
leave you continue.
that is well said. I will say it in both. So it's a new agency in Portugal, the Agency for Clinical Research and Biomedical Innovation, Agência de Investigação Clínica e Inovação Biomédica. We call it AICIP.
Thank you, Patricia.
Okay.
So, yeah, Patricia, besides being national contact point, she also has a role in the program committee for cluster health, and she's present in different boards also on dealing with cancer mission. So she's a very experienced colleague for many years now. So I leave the floor to the 4 guests of the roundtable, and I see you later after the roundtable just for a quick wrap up and tell you something on the B2B.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much. So I think we will have on stage our speakers for today. I will give a very brief presentation of each of them because I will then give them the word for presenting themselves. I would say that I think it's a privilege to have these four coordinators with us today. So for you in the audience, please take this opportunity to put all your questions to them. Those ones that you think that maybe are not, usually the most relevant questions are the more simple ones. So please feel free to use this moment to clarify everything. Usually what people want to know, it's not, and thank you for the organizers, and for you to make questions, you can join Slido, just write in your computer, in your browser, slido.com, and use the code CL1 for cluster 1, or you can also use the QR code. So our discussion will not focus on the scientific and technical aspects of these projects. Usually it's not what matters to you, but on the secrets of success, the tips and tricks, what do they recommend as experienced coordinators. So with no further ado, I would like to briefly introduce, we have four people here with us representing different types of institutions. We have Claudia Louro from Portugal. She works at Kineticus. Kineticus is an SME, a digital health company. They work in a disease movement, movement disorders, now focusing on Parkinson's, and they are the coordinator of an Horizon 2020 project, which is called ProCare for Life. Then from France, we have Barbara Garmi-Sussini, research director at INSERM. Welcome, Barbara. And she's coordinating also an H2020 project called Theralinth. From Italy, we have Simona Tondelli, a professor of urban and regional planning in the Department of Architecture. Thank you, Simona, for being with us. And also the vice director of the University of Bologna Interdepartment Center for Applied Research and on Buildings and Construction. Currently, Simona coordinates two H2020 projects, Enlighten Me and Rurikach, which she will tell us about. And last but not least, we have with us Sara. Good morning, Sara. From the European Cancer Patient Coalition, although an immunologist by training, working several years in that area, and as a patient advocate now at the European Cancer Patient Coalition, where you deal, Sara, with many projects. I would ask all the speakers to keep the answers short and objective. Again, what participants want to know, it's more how you did it and not exactly what you are doing in scientific and technical terms. We have no presentations. We will have a very interactive discussion. I have some questions for you, and we are already receiving questions from the audience too. So I would like to save a generous amount of time so that we can address the questions that people that are hearing us have for us. So maybe in the same order that I have introduced you, I would like each of you to say hello to our participants and to introduce yourselves very briefly concerning the experience that you have in the European Research and Innovation Program. Claudia, we can start with you. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you. I would like to thank the opportunity for the organization for inviting us to share our experience. And as Patricia said, we are a digital health. Kinetics is a digital health company. We are, in fact, experts in translating human movement in clinical insight. Basically, we use biomechanics and artificial intelligence not to only quantify human movement in terms of steps, gait, mobility, but also to classify the quality and characterize the gait, which is very important in some specific diseases, such as Parkinson's disease, the one of the diseases that we are working with. I don't know, but I don't know if you know, but Parkinson's disease is still based, the assessment is still based on a very subjective way. So neurologist asks patients to record their events in a diary, and then they evaluate it in consultation. But as you can understand, this is very subjective and it's retrospective, and it depends on what patients recall, what they think it's important. And sometimes it's not very easy, not sometimes, I would say, it's not easy at all for neurologists to assess the cause effect of their clinical decisions. So that's where kinetics comes in and turn those metrics that are subjective in objective metrics. We use our mobile app, Kinetics, that it's available on for Android, for iOS, and we translate the movements, the daily movements from patients into those objective metrics that can be assessed through a platform by the neurologists. They can have also other functionalities in that platform to assess the patient's response and their in the treatment monitoring. So basically, this is our expertise. And as Patricia said, we are the coordinators of ProCare for Life project, which is a 3 years project funded by the Horizon 2020, and it aims to develop a solution, a personalized and integrated solution for elderly suffering from neurodegenerative diseases such as Alzheimer, Parkinson, and other dementias. So this is basically our experience. Yes, in a nutshell.
Thank you, Claudia, and we will have the opportunity for you to share the experience during the next hour. Barbara, could you please briefly introduce you and your project?
Yeah, so thank you for inviting us today to present our project, and we did it. So we are in France, and we are I started this group 10 years ago, and it was the first group in France entirely dedicated to the study of the lymphatic system, and we are working on all the pathology where the lymphatic system is involved, from cancer to cardiovascular disease. And the TIRA-LYMPH project that we are coordinating is a project dedicated to the study of an unmet medical needs, which is lymphedema. For regenerative medicine. Lymphedema, it's also elephantiasis. It occurs after cancer treatment, mostly women with breast cancer treatment who have a huge arm that develop and you cannot stop the swelling, but also in Africa or India after filarial infection. And this pathology affect more than 200 million people in the world, and there is no treatment. And in my lab, we are also specialized in vector in gene therapy and RNA delivery vectors. And we are going to use those RNA delivery system using a new class of lenti-vector that is non-integrative to inject a combination of molecules in patients. And we are going to perform a phase 1 and 2 clinical trial starting in 2023. So, and I was lucky because in the lymphatic system and in lymphatic fields, the majority of the labs that are really performant in different domains are located in Europe. So it was quite easy to have a consortium.
The consortium.
Yes.
This will be our first or the next round of questions, because everybody wants to know about consortium building. So we can take it from there, Barbara. Thank you so much. Simona, would you like to tell us in a nutshell a bit about you and your project? Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting me, and good morning to everybody. As you said before, I'm professor of urban planning at the University of Bologna, Department of Architecture. As a background, I'm an environmental engineer, and my research interest concerns the regeneration of cities and rural areas, so sustainable growth of the territory, And for doing this, we deal with many different topics like sustainable mobility, urban green areas, social inclusion, governance, and of course also health and well-being. We are based in Emilia-Romagna region in Italy, and we work with many local governments because our approach is really how to deal with cities and how to improve the physical space where we live. But we have also a huge network of EU and international collaborations, thanks to a big number of projects we are involved in. We started in 2010 with the first project we coordinated. It was an Interreg, and now I'm coordinating two Horizons projects. One is Ruritage, about the sustainable growth of rural areas, and one is Enlighten Me, about urban health, and in particular about the effects of lighting on health and well-being. But I'm also coordinating two Interreg projects, and we are part of the consortium of about 10 other different projects in this moment.
So you are a busy woman with all these projects in hand. Sara, last but not least, again, tell us a bit about the work you are doing at your association and the projects you are involved, which I assume are also several.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having us here as from a patient organization to bring our point of view. So as you mentioned, I am the Senior Health and Project Manager at ECPC, the European Cancer Patient Organization. We are a patient umbrella organization, I should say. We represent all patient organizations throughout Europe, all of the member states, and we represent all different types of cancer. So everything from the rarest type to the most common type of cancer. We, of course, have a lot of different consortiums that we're involved with, and a lot of different Horizon projects. We always bring the patient perspective into all of these projects. I would say one of the interesting projects, for example, is an IMI project called Prefer that we are involved with, and where it is about patient preferences and PROs and how to really bring the patient perspective into any decision making. And that's our role in all of the consortiums, really.
Thank you so much. I think it's really nice that we have different kind of institutions, because the way you look for partners or you work in consortiums is also different. So I'm looking at the questions that are coming out, and many of them also connect to the things that I wanted to ask you. So I'm going to make a mix here. The first question I would like to direct to you, it's also one of the most voted, and it relates to consortium building. You are coordinators, you coordinate the consortium. So people want to know, how do you do it? Where do you find your partners? Because if you are an experienced coordinator, you have networks. But when you started, or when your institution started, you did not have a network. So always in this perspective of helping the others that are not as solid as maybe your institutions are now, what would your advice is on building a consortium, how to build a consortium, what makes a good consortium, how do you look for partners if you don't have any partner? And one of the questions that the audience is also making, what are your comments on the size of a good consortium? This is something that is very common too. So any of you who would like to start, because in this specific case you have different perspectives, so maybe you all want to add something. Sara, you are nothing, so maybe you want to start.
Maybe I can start. Sure. So for us, since we are a patient organization, it's very different, I think, from other type of organizations. We do get asked a lot to be involved in consortiums. We do have some projects where we have sent in also the proposal itself, wanting to be the coordinator or the leader of the entire consortium. It's a bit different being a patient or being an NGO, I would say. It's a bit different than if you're in academia or university. It's usually easier. Regarding the size of the consortium, I think the size, I have gone from everything from 5 members to 50 members in a consortium, and it really all depends on the collaboration. Especially if you've done projects together before, if you know each other, you know how you work together. It doesn't matter if it's 20 people or if it's five people, because if it's five people that doesn't really have the same goal or the same type of way of working, it's still going to be difficult. So I would say make your expectations clear from the beginning. There usually is always a meeting regarding, you know, the work packages, regarding what your role will be, what you can do, what you cannot do. Be very honest of what you actually can do and what you need help with. Because I have been in projects where people have taken on too much, and then you realize that they might not be able to do that, and the projects and the partners in the workshops or in the work packages are already set. So it's a bit difficult to rearrange them. And networking is really, really key when it comes to building a consortium. We do have a lot of projects that when we have worked with someone already who has worked, we have a good working experience with, if we get a proposal or if we see that there's a call open, we will automatically think of that partner and contact them again and say, you know, this is a project that I think we could do well together. And the same goes for us. When we have been involved in many projects, they usually come back to us because they know that they can reach us, we will reach deadlines, we will work, we will, you know, reply on emails, we know the reporting, we know these things. So I think, like any type of working relationship, building that network and that, you know, collaboration is very, very important.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Sarah. I think we all agree, independently of who talks, that the number of partners in a consortium, it depends on the needs of the specific board. There is no magic number. We get that question very much as NCPs. The only thing I can say is that it's not normal that we see projects with 3, 4, or 5. That's uncommon. The average for health, it's around 10, 12. But it has to make sense for your own project. Barbara, would you like to comment on this consortium building, how to get, from the perspective of the coordinator, how to get new partners, and maybe for all the people that is listening to us, and I can tell you that the most ranked question now, it's exactly if it is now too late to realistically build a viable consortium for the 2021 calls, September. What do you have to tell to people that are listening to us? What are your advices? What should they do?
Yes, that's right. For the September this year, I guess I think it's a little bit late. For myself, what I did, I built a consortium. I start only in December and I apply in April the year after. So I had only 4 months to do it. In fact, it was built in 1 month, the consortium, but it's all people that I knew before. I did not really collaborate with all these people. Some of them I just wanted to collaborate with them, but we didn't get any chance in the past to do it. So, but it's all people that I really recommend to go in small meeting like the Gordon Conference, or you are only 200 people. And at the end of the conference, you know each other very well. And I met all these people in those meetings, really specialized meeting. And I have to be honest, in fact, you have always really good leaders in the field. And once the leader said yes to my consortium, all the people wanted to be a part of it. So if you have the key person after everybody, they don't even read the project. They say, yeah, it's fine. Who is in the?
So I would say that we must be strategic, right? You know who the good people are, strategy. And proactive also. So you were not sitting in your office waiting for somebody to knock your door and send you an email. This is also a strong message.
I really identify which one would be a key motor for the rest of the group. So honestly, I took a plane to Helsinki. I just one night just to meet that person that I knew before, but we never collaborated before, and to convince this person to work with me. And after, when I came back to France, it was so easy. But do not hesitate to just jump to the opposite country in Europe just to talk to people, because after it's good. And after it will be
that's a very strong message for people that are listening to us. So you have to really be very proactive, right? And also because those expert people, many people want them, so you gotta be proactive and approach them and get them on board. Very nice.
Science is easier. Science is easy, but all the rest is difficult.
Thank you, Simona. You should also comment on this, please. And I think it was something you said something nice that I would like to pinpoint. That you mentioned some Interact projects. This is also something that is very common that we see as NCPs, that people gain experience with other programs. Many times it happens before having an H2020 or a bigger project. So that's maybe also a source of partners and networking for you. Would you like to comment, please?
I'm sorry, I don't know if you can hear me. My connection is really bad now.
We can hear you. You cannot hear us.
No, now I can. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, it works now. Perfectly. I'm sorry, I lost the previous intervention and also your question.
We are talking about consortium building. And how do you see this challenge of getting the right partners into your consortium? And also from the perspective, maybe a few years ago when you started, what did you do to find a good consortium? Because any of you was not born as a coordinator and with a track record. So for the beginners, what would be your advices?
So I think that this is one of the key issues for a successful proposal. So we start normally with going through the proposal, through the topic, and trying to find the key actions that have to be performed. And then for each key action, we have to find the right partners. Normally, this action is quite long and complex because you have to interact to see if you share the same vision of the topic also. And what we do normally is to start from our previous contacts, since we are involved in many other initiatives. So we have some partners that, for example, ICT partners or dissemination partners that can be useful, let's say, for many different purposes. But then for the very specific tasks, we need the expert partners. So then we start really to contact the one that we think better can represent what we have in mind. So we search, for example, scientific publication to find the most advanced research on the field. We also have a lot of attention for the feasibility. So what we need to find is to have partners that not only have good ideas or technical expertise, but that can put into practice the actions. So, for example, if we are talking about urban policies, we need cities, local governments, or if we need to engage people, we also need associations of citizens or people that are able to reach out citizens. Aspects that we look at is the geographical representation, not only because it is good to have this map with all the countries involved, but because normally what we want to achieve is also the possibility to apply the same action that we are studying in the project in many different contexts. So if we start with pilots, with actions that are developed in different contexts for what concerns climate aspects, urban features, and so on, we can then claim for the scalability and the transferability of the project. Another point is the balance between different type of partners, so SMEs, research centers, civil society representatives, local government, and so on, according, of course, to the topic that we are tackling. And also what Caterina was saying before about the need also to have partners that address communication and dissemination and exploitation is very important. So not to forget what is not strictly scientific, it's very important. And also what she said, I agree very much about the commitment of the partners. When you talk with them, when you interact, you have calls, or perhaps sometimes we also organize a meeting in presence when it was possible before submitting, just to understand what every partner can do and what is their commitment. You have to understand if they are then available to perform the activities, because it is easy to jump on the project, but then there are things to be done. So it's good to have a bit of understanding about what they can really do. And also, I think it is very good to have a good coordinator, not because I'm a coordinator in this case, but as I said, I'm also partner in many cases, and the coordination is crucial, because otherwise all the pieces of the project just get lost. So to have this capability from the side of the coordinator of having a timeline of keeping contacts with all the partners is really very, very important for putting together all the complex and different activities that normally are within a European project.
I will get back to that point of good coordinator, because we have people making questions on that. But I would like to finish this round with Claudia about the consortium building. I know, in fact, Claudia, that you have an interesting twist in your story, that you got to be coordinator of a project, but the idea was not yours. So maybe you would also like to comment on that, so that people don't have these fixed notions that everything has to follow a certain rule.
Yes, our history is a little bit different from the ones that have been told, that we were been hearing here, but it's about network as well. So ProCare for Life is built from previous Horizon 2020 research and innovation actions, and part of the consortium of one of these actions of this research project decided to exploit the results of that in an innovation action. So that's why ProCare for Life was born. And that core team realized that they didn't have all the skills, all the complementary skills that should strengthen the consortium. So they decided to invite other partners, and we were one of them, of the partners invited. And then we started to work with them. And just to give you, why did they contact us? Because one of the partners from that core team that I was mentioning before, they were one of our clients, so they knew by then what we do, and they trust our work, so they contact us, and so we joined the project. So only in a later stage of the writing the proposal, they challenge us, and I have to say they challenge us to accept the coordination. So here we are. And in fact, it has been a great challenge. I won't deny that following the advice of the NCPs usually give, saying that we should start as partners would have been easier, but it has been a great learning experience, and learning by doing, and supported by partners who have a lot of experience in coordination and in participation in projects. So, but our consortium is made up of 14 entities from 6 different countries. We have different kind of partners. We have partners more from the technical side, academia, companies, but we also have the clinical side as end users. We have associations, clinics, private and public hospitals, And we have other partners that are more transversal, related to ethics, related to communication and dissemination, and even training. So it's how it is composed, our consortium.
Thank you, Claudia. And that follows very well what also Simona mentioned about and the other speakers about the different expertise we need to incorporate in such a consortium. And that is why it's very easy that you have a larger number of partners, because you need multidisciplinarity. And also, if you want to test things in different countries because of the diversities of health systems or something similar, you also kind of add up a few number of partners. Of course, we all know that it's much more difficult to manage a consortium with 50 partners or 60 partners than a smaller one, but it's difficult, I would say, for these health projects to have 4, 5, or 6 partners only. Claudia, you touched something that it's also one of the top questions the audience always has. Is this question of should we start as a beneficiary or should we start as a coordinator? And of course, the normal NCP talking is that you should try first as just a project partner and learn and then move on to being a coordinator. But we know that sometimes things just happen and it's not always the case. So maybe I would also ask you for a brief comment on 2 things. First, what do you think about this this rule that we should be partners first and then coordinators, if it was your case or not? And then one of our top questions at the moment, in your perspective, what are, and I would ask for the 3 most important qualities of a good coordinator?
So this is we have participated in previous projects, but there were small projects that were launched by Horizon 2020 project. So this is our first Horizon as a company, our first Horizon 2020 project. So I would say that it would be easier as a team, as our company team, to start as partner. But as I was saying, it was we thought, and we have been learning a lot, and we thought it would be a great challenge and a great experience for us to accept the coordination. So I would say yes, it would have been easier to be a partner, but it has been also a great challenge to and a great opportunity for us to learn, because it's I think it's quite different being a partner than being a coordinator.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things that
we all agree.
There's a lot of things that we have to do as coordinators that as partners we don't have. A lot of things that we have to deal. A lot of things that even not only technical things are related to the project, but concerning the consortium, concerning the people that are involved. So yes, I think it's a big experience for us.
Three most important things a coordinator should do.
I think we should know very well our partners. So we need to understand what they do best, and how, because we are all different and we work in very different ways, but we have to come up with the best of each of them. So and I think if we are able to identify these, it will be a key point to the success of the project. Yes, we need to be very strict with timelines and so on, because it's when we have a lot of people involved in the tasks and the deliverables, it's easier to not, because we all have very busy schedules, so sometimes it's not easy to have the meetings, to have the things on time, and we have to be strict on that. I would say, let me think about the third one.
It's okay if you just have to, they are really good.
Yes, I think
no, I think they are nice. We can hear the others. Sarah,
Okay.
maybe I will ask you, and keep in mind that people that are listening to us will now have a bunch of meetings in the afternoon, and they will look for these characteristics in the people that they will meet. So, Sarah, give us your input, please. What makes a good coordinator?
Yes. So I hope you will be able to hear me because I've had some issues with lagging with the internet I can see here. But I would say the most important when you're coordinating, which is much more different and more difficult than being a partner, is to have a structure from the beginning, because you are in charge of making sure that everyone, the deliverables will be in time, the reporting will be in time, all of these things. So the most good projects that I've been involved with, or efficient ones, they've had a clear project management tool, a clear structure, a clear, communication already from the start. And then I would say, to be a coordinator, you also need to be a good communicator, because no matter how good the partners get along, there might be some differences between partners, or between the work and schedules, and somehow you need to kind of communicate in between all of this sometimes, and make sure that there's a good dialogue and there's a good update, and that the project doesn't stop just because one partner organization might have different things coming up, or vacations as we are in now, and so on. And then structure, communication, and I would say dedication, really. I think people don't really understand how long it takes to be the coordinator. It's not,
It's a big effort.
Yeah.
I totally support you, not from a personal perspective, but from the support we give to coordinators. And especially, and again, you mentioned the time, and we have questions again asking, are we on time to have a consortium by September? It's the time we have, and also most of you have access to the work, to the draft work program for longer. So I would say another advice any experienced coordinator would give you, it is what we have. So if it is what we have, time or whatever, let's work and do the best we can. And also, as you say, vacation, and also I would say, Sarah, different cultures many times, because you deal in a certain way in the same way with a big group of people, and a person from Italy or from Norway, or we have cultural differences that also a coordinator has to learn and manage. So it's really a big challenge. Simona or Barbara, who would like to start? Again, you can, a good coordinator, what does it take to be a good coordinator? And if you want to comment also on this thing of starting as a coordinator or starting as a project partner.
I can go. I started as a coordinator in 2010. It's not the easiest way. I would say that in principle it is much more easy to start as a partner, to understand a bit the mechanism and how it works. But then if you have the idea, if you have the willingness, I think you have just to try to be brave. And sometimes when you are brave, then it goes, you receive satisfaction for this approach. For what concerns the qualities of a coordinator, I agree with Sarah a lot about the need of a team. A coordination team is fundamental, because coordination is not just about knowing the scientific part, but it is about management, financial aspects, and also when you have big consortia, it's not easy to keep everything on track and to contact everyone. So a good coordination team, a good structure, as she was saying, is really fundamental. And then I think that the skills you need are really social, and you have to learn how to deal with people. It's not just about what we have studied, what we are, our expertise from the technical or scientific point of view, but it is much more about relations with people, what you can ask to someone and what you cannot ask to someone else, and how you ask to get a good answer. And it's also to keep everything on track. Sometimes I think the good coordinator has also to be a bit bossy. So not to be afraid about asking, because otherwise things just go around and you cannot you cannot find a way if you leave everything go from without keeping track and without being really on every activities that goes on. So I think that everything relates again with the good coordination team, if I have to say one most important issue.
Yeah, it's actually a teamwork, right? Although then one person also sometimes gives the face. I would like to highlight, Simona, what you said about the structure, because I think that makes a big difference. Institutional structure here, or the team, if you want. And that is the reason why most coordination, especially in health, or at least in health, are done by academia and research institutes. And that's why the case of Kineticus, and I'm very proud of Kineticus, of course, extra because they are Portuguese, but in any case, because they are an SME and they coordinate the project. And this is not very common, exactly because due to the lack of structure, a structure dedicated to this type of program. So this is something that surely we want to promote and improve in our European institutions. So Barbara, would you like to tell us about how do you deal with different personalities, different needs, different how can you manage this in your project?
Yeah, so first I wanted to answer to the first question. And of course, I think it's easier to be partners compared to coordinator, but I've never been partner, so I cannot really say. But you have to keep in mind that when you are coordinator, you do the Europe gives you the chance to do what you want to do and what you are dreaming to do for years. So for me, it's much better to be coordinator because this project, I was thinking about it for years. And as a partner, I would only do a part of it. And yeah, the quality, I totally agree with my colleagues. And me, what I've done is I took a company to take care about all the reports and deliverables and everything. So it's a huge amount of money. It costs like, I think for 5 years, it's 200,000 euro, but I don't make any report. I just write the science, and they are doing everything else. They send email to all the work package leader for all the deliverables. They take care about everything. They put all together. So it's I think it was the best way to do it, easier way for me. So I only have to talk about science with the partners.
Okay.
And I also agree that you have to be strict, because at the beginning, what's happened to me is that everybody starts using money to perform their own current project in the lab, and I have to remind them all the time, every 3 months at the beginning, no, it's not their project, but they have to work on lymphedema project. And it was quite difficult the first 6 months, but after everything. But also it was difficult because my project started last year. So we performed the kickoff meeting, and 1 week later, there was a shutdown about all the Europe and confinement, and they closed my lab. So it was quite difficult. So I was really cool with everybody until October, just to they did what they could do. We couldn't hire anybody, and it was quite difficult.
It was a big challenge. Yes, this pandemic was a big challenge for everybody, and also for the project. Thank you. We have also here a question that maybe you would like to approach, and I will give the floor to, if you have a nice story to tell, because someone comments on and with many votes, can you comment on possible failures in projects you are or have been involved, and what typical mistakes should be avoided? So I will leave it up to you if you have like a nice story or a good suggestion of mistakes to avoid. Nobody has failures. That's good.
I can maybe go.
I have a lot if you want.
Just a few, because we are reaching the end of our time. So feel free to share something which is informative and for our audience.
I would say the worst thing you can do is to not really communicate. Honestly, I mean, I've been in projects where we have deliverables coming up and it's impossible to reach partners. And it's okay if things change, schedules change, people quit, people leave, but just inform the consortium and the other partners, because there's always someone who can help or take over or do part of it, so that the entire project doesn't fail just because one partner's situation changed. So be open with that and don't wait until last minute, just a couple of weeks before a deliverable to say, actually, we have been thinking for 2 months about what to do about this. Just from the beginning, say things have changed and we think we might be able to solve this, but just a heads up, we might need help, because that's so much easier for the coordinator to also have time to look at the other partners who can help, or what can the coordinator do, so that the whole project doesn't fail.
Yeah, very important. Thank you, Sarah, for sharing this. Does anybody else wants to share any failure, anything went bad, any advice? Simona.
We are coordinating and participating into many projects, but there are much more projects that were not successful in which we were involved. So it's not always a good process. The probability of success are not so high, but I think that we have to keep trying. So we have to keep our ideas, and it's also how you write, how you explain, because from my point of view, being a researcher, I was not used to explain what I was going to do in such a way that people not expert of my same field were able to understand. So I think that it is a bit about learning how to communicate this idea, and also to move the attention a lot on the impact. So not just what you want to do, but then the impact and the long-term one about people, about quality of life, how to really emphasize this is a good issue. And then if the reviewers do not understand, just try again, and you will be lucky the next time.
I think that is a very good point, because people that are seeing you there now, they might just think they applied and they got the grant. And usually, again, there are exceptions, but usually that is not the case. Usually we have the success rate that we know is around 12 or 15%. And people who get to be on stage because they are coordinators, they have a lot of failures on their back. So keep in mind that this is the drill for everybody. So if you want to play this game, you really have to be brave, to be resilient, to go there many times. And sometimes applications are not funded and they are excellent. They are rated like 14 out of 15. So I think that's a very good message too, that it's not, as we say in Portugal, shooting once and getting the thing done. Barbara, would you like to comment on this?
No, I don't have.
You have no big failures, nothing that went really wrong, no.
In fact, as I told you, the project only started 1 year ago. So and it was shut down by the COVID. So we really and there was a second confinement at the end of 2020. So.
So maybe that is already a story of how you had to deal with these circumstances that you did not expect when you wrote your application. That is already a story.
Now we could extend for 6 months at the end. So I will be able to talk to you about that in 2025 probably.
Okay. Okay. We will do that. We will come back and talk later. So maybe a last question now, because we are reaching the end of our time. I would like to ask you, and you can answer it together because they are connected. Do you plan to apply again as a coordinator in Horizon Europe? And how do you see this new impact-oriented funding, this pathway to impact, these new challenges? And Simona just touched that now. So this is not a novelty for the ones of you that has just arrived. This is not new. Horizon 2020 also had a big focus on impact. I remember from day one I started working that it was the key message was no results in the drawer. So in order for you to have an H2020 project, you had to show in your application that you need to you will do something for the benefit of society with those results. But now it's even more striking, so maybe a bit more challenging. So what are your views on this impact-oriented funding, and do you plan in applying again as a coordinator within the next 7 years? Maybe Claudia, would you like to start?
Yes, yes. Procare for Life will end in 2022, in the end of 2022. So I would say that by then, during at least this year and in the beginning of the next year, we will be focusing on the implementation of Procare for Life, and we will not thinking to go on another coordination at this moment, but yes, we are still interested in participating in projects, and I would say that innovation is in our DNA. So we think that this is an excellent opportunity for this type of entities like us, like companies, and even in some calls of Horizon 2020 or at now Horizon Europe, there are explicitly SMEs are explicitly encouraged to participate.
Yes.
So it's a great opportunity for companies as well, and we are of course more connected to the market, and it's good for this kind of activities like innovation activities, and we are of course interested to continue collaborating and to be challenged, and the challenge that are always aligned with our purpose, because we will not be able to go for a challenge that has nothing to do with us. But there's a good example of the first project, because we have already submitted one project in Horizon Europe this year in May. It was an EIC project, a Pathfinder, and this project just resulted from an invitation we received to participate in a consortium that apparently didn't have much to do with us. So it was about epilepsy, and but our experience in algorithms and in medical device certification and even this project coordination was considered as an added value. So we applied with that project, and the invitation just came after one action like this, one event like this. The one we was promoted in Portugal by our NCPs.
Our infotech. Yeah.
Yes. So if I can leave some advice here regarding these, I think these are excellent opportunities to show ourselves, to show what we have, what we do, and it's not easy to have these projects approved, but it's because it's very competitive, and but it's not impossible, and this is something that I would like to pass. And even for a company that doesn't have such a structure to support coordination, I think we are coordinating our company, so we will be able to coordinate a project as this one as well.
For sure, and you have our help at national level, as the others also will. Thank you, Claudia. Sara, would you like to comment on this? Thinking about new projects, you are a big umbrella patient association. You have 7 years ahead. Are you afraid of this new impact-driven program?
Well, I should start by saying that we will probably try to always apply for coordination roles. I think the new structure, to me, one of the big reasons I think that a lot of, this is of course just by personal experience, to why a lot of projects might fail, never even start, is because they are not structured enough, they are not clear enough in their impact, and they are not describing the problem in a lay person language. So I think the fact that it's more focused on that now might benefit a lot of organizations that usually might not put too much effort on that. I think it's going to be a challenge to take away other stuff or to shorten stuff, but I think as long as you have a clear vision and you know how to describe it to any person, not just as you would speak to your colleague who knows the science or who knows the project, but if you would talk to your friends who does not know anything about the work.
Your mom, your dad.
Yes, exactly. And
Yes.
explain the impact, and it's clear. I think it will be a struggle, but it's not impossible. And for us, I know we already now are involved in a lot of writing proposals, so we will definitely try to go for it.
A lot of work in your hands. We will surely keep in touch, Sarah, and thank you so much for your participation. Talk to you very soon. Barbara, maybe now I go to you. Well, again, you are starting to coordinate your project now, so maybe not in the next years, but after that.
Yeah, but we already think about applying for another one because we, in fact, our strategy is to perform basic science and clinical trial, and it was to evaluate in phase 1 the toxicity of RNA delivery, but because of the COVID, we had a huge delay. But thanks to the COVID, we have a mondial RNA delivery that shows that it's really well tolerated by people. So I'm sure that my phase 1 will be really good, and I already think about applying for the rest of the study of the clinical trial with the clinician, because we already know the results. So, but we're still working on new therapeutic targets and all this funding. And now, what? Sorry, I forgot the name of the first.
Sarah or Claudia?
Yes, she said it's not impossible. And that's the point. Now that I know that it's not impossible, I will apply again, definitely.
Okay, very strong message again, Barbara. That is very, very nice. And it's a good example of how to transform apparently a challenge into an opportunity too. And that's the spirit that we need to have when we want to play this game. Thank you so much, Barbara. I will keep following your work for sure, and I hope we can meet in the future. And Simona, last but not least, now in your case, you already coordinate 2H 2020 projects and other ones. You have a big research infrastructure at your university, so I would assume that you will be looking for more opportunities in the future and that you are not afraid of this impact-driven program. But tell us about that. I don't know if you are listening to me, Simona. At least I think that we, unfortunately, we've lost Simona. So I'm going to close it now. Just some brief comments. There are more questions on Slack that we did not answer, but many of them are very common NCP questions. So keep in mind that in all your countries, you have Patricia's and Katarinas just available for you. So use your services. You go to the Funding and Tenders portal and you have access to all the emails and phone numbers. And these are people that are just here to help you. So use us, use the NCP community for all these questions. How long can a project take? What is the maximum budget? And so on and so forth. Simona, are you back? Do you want 30 seconds? 30 seconds just to say goodbye and tell us if you will apply again. We would say that you would for sure, but very shortly, please, because we are running out of time.
Sorry for the troubles in the connection. Yeah, of course, we will apply again. We love this way of working with different partners from different countries and different expertise. I think this is very, very exciting for us, a researcher, but also to see then the effects on the territories and on the people. So we will apply, probably not in this immediate round. So we just started with Enlighten Me in March. So I think we are already looking for some topics for 2022. So probably we will be there again.
Thank you, Simona, and I hope to see you again in the future. And I would say the main message, I think they were very clear. You have to be brave. You have to really want this and to look for your research opportunity. Choose well your partners. Choose well your calls, your topics. Don't apply just because it's this year, because if something is also a common understanding, it's that you have to adjust what you want to do to the specific needs. This is a top-down program. Be very objective with what you want and never give up, I would say. And it was a pleasure for me to have this panel of 4 great women that were sharing with us today their experience. Hope to see you all in the future. And Katarina, I think that now we will get back to you.
Here I am. Do you see me?
Yes.
Thank you, Patricia, and thank you to these wonderful women coordinators, but especially women with a lot of talent of managing many things. I enjoyed very much this roundtable, so I'm really happy that we decided to do it and to give some time to this discussion. So really, I'm really pleased, and thank you, Patricia. Excellent moderation. We really took a lot of messages from all of you, and I think we really created an environment for making an impact for all the participants of this afternoon meetings. So I will greet all of you. Hope to see you soon in any meetings in Europe, or Brussels, or wherever else. And now, before closing, I would like to give just 2 slides with a few messages for this afternoon for the B2B starting at 1:30. So I have some slide to project. Actually, one telling you how many meetings, how many participants we have. The slide is coming. So this is what we have for today. Actually, the number I've raised, the 2023 participants are there, but while we were talking and discussing the meetings raised, I think we have about over 1,200 meetings scheduled for this afternoon. Countries involved, 60. So much beyond the boundaries of European Union. We are really happy and satisfied about this exit. So next slide is showing now what to do, how it works. You have received an email from our colleagues who have been working very hard in these weeks on the validation of the profile. You got an email where you follow these instructions, which are re-mentioned here in this slide. So you need to go to the meetings. In order to start the meeting, you need to click on the Start Meeting button. Depending on the previous settings you have on your computer, some browsers will ask your permission to use the mic and camera. You're used to this. A virtual meeting can be started at any given time before its ending time, and it won't stop automatically. So remember that one of the participants will have to end this. The remaining time, this is very important to stay in the 20 minutes you have available, will be displayed on the top left corner. You are also invited, and if you want to share your screen showing some slides or via the share screen button and chat via the chat button on the right. Guests can be invited to a meeting through the Invite Guest button. Remember that you can have up to 5 participants in the meeting, so you can really create a discussion multiple, not only B2B. So this is basically the few indication we wanted to give you. I'm showing in the next slide just the names of the 2 colleagues who are based here in APRE, who have been supporting all this process and have been answering to your mails. Serena Karen, and you see the email address, Bruno Morenza, his email address. They are still here available to answer to your question. But of course, now it's only a matter of just jumping into the meetings. Remember that you can still confirm the pending meeting in the next hours. So this is really, I think, time to greet you and to wish you really a very fruitful afternoon in your meetings. You will hear from us for sure also after the meeting. We will probably send you a communication to ask how it went, how profitable the meetings went, and so on. The NCPs are there from now on to assist you on the 2021 calls. So please contact us for having the relevant information accompanying you to the submission of the proposal. I am now leaving you. So thanks again for following. We were several hundreds of people connected. I want to say also that the presentations we had today, mine and from Gian Pietro, will be available in the B2Match tool. We will upload this presentation there. This was also a question from the participant. And the video, so all we had today was recorded, will be also available on YouTube. You will receive the link from us, organizer, very soon. So a big thank you, energy and commitment. Good luck for this afternoon. See you soon.